I think my mother did exactly the right thing. I think it's absolutely extraordinary that any right-minded thinking parent should believe.
For decades, Princess Anne has quietly helped hold the royal family together. But according to a recent report, she has finally passed that responsibility on to someone else during a private ceremony at Windsor Castle. And no, this person isn't the next monarch or someone with a royal bloodline. It is Catherine, the Princess of Wales. And all of this reportedly happened in the presence of King Charles, Prince William, Queen Camilla, and other senior members of the royal family. So the question is, why did Anne choose Catherine? Why did King Charles approve the decision? And why did it reportedly leave some members of the royal family divided? The ceremony. The ceremony took place inside St. George's Hall at Windsor Castle. But the gathering itself was unusual. Everyone had been called on short notice, leaving many members of the royal family quietly wondering why they were there. Some believed it would be a private family meeting. Others assumed it was simply another royal engagement. No one imagined they were about to witness one of Princess Anne's final public duties. That is when Anne entered the hall. In her hands was Queen Mary's laurel circlet. Now, if you don't know what that is, it's a historic piece of royal regalia that's only brought out for some of the monarchy's most important ceremonies. It is normally carried into the room by an equerry, a senior military officer who serves as a personal aide to the monarch or senior royals. But this time, Anne refused the help. Instead, she carried the circlet herself, step by step, across the room. It was a small decision, but one that quietly reflected the way she had approached royal duty throughout her life. As Anne approached Catherine, the atmosphere in the room seemed to shift. Catherine watched her with a puzzled expression. Like everyone else, she had arrived expecting a private family meeting. She glanced toward Prince William, quietly searching for an explanation, but William already knew what was about to happen. Anne took one final step forward and came to a stop directly in front of Catherine. Then, in a calm, steady voice, she asked the Princess of Wales to kneel. Anne looked down at Catherine for a brief moment, then carefully lifted Queen Mary's laurel circlet. Holding it with both hands, she gently lowered it into place. For a moment, neither woman moved. The room remained completely silent. Then Anne took a small step back and everyone began to applaud. To most people, it looked like a simple ceremonial moment. But for those who knew Anne, it felt like something much bigger. She had spent decades quietly carrying the weight of duty, responsibility, and tradition. And now, all of that responsibility was being given to Catherine. It wasn't a decision made overnight. In the royal family, responsibilities of this kind are passed on with great care. And that is why the moment immediately raised one question. Out of every member of the royal family, why was Catherine the one chosen to carry such an important responsibility? Before we get into that, we need to understand exactly what Anne was looking for and why that responsibility mattered so much. The role no one really saw. Princess Anne has spent most of her life doing the kind of work that rarely makes headlines. While other members of the royal family often appeared on newspaper covers, Anne was usually somewhere else. She was opening hospitals, visiting military regiments, meeting with charities, or representing the crown at another official engagement. They weren't glamorous events, but they were the ones that kept the monarchy connected to the public. And because of that, Anne quietly built a reputation for always showing up when it mattered most. But the public only saw part of her role. Behind the scenes, Anne had taken on a responsibility far greater than official engagements. Whenever tensions grew inside the family, Anne was usually the one people relied on. She handled the difficult conversations others tried to avoid. And whenever royal traditions or long-standing values came under pressure, she worked quietly to protect them. Over time, those values became her own. Duty came before popularity. The work mattered more than the attention. That quiet reliability eventually became something the family depended on. But as the years passed, Anne began noticing something she hadn't expected. During family gatherings and public engagements, the same pattern kept repeating itself. When conversations became tense, people naturally drifted toward Catherine. When someone needed reassurance, it was often the Princess of Wales who quietly stepped in. She wasn't trying to take charge or draw attention to herself. Yet somehow people seemed calmer after speaking with her. Anne noticed it long before the public did. She recognized the same quiet steadiness she had spent decades trying to provide herself. And for the first time, Anne began to wonder if the responsibility she had carried for so long could one day belong to someone else. That was the moment she made a quiet decision. If the future of the royal family was going to rest in someone's hands, Anne believed Catherine should be the one to carry it. But there was one problem. Not everyone in the family agreed with this decision. The divide among the family. Once Princess Anne had made up her mind, there was still one person whose approval she needed: King Charles. Anne had spent decades earning the family's trust, but a decision of this importance couldn't be made by her alone. This wasn't about the line of succession or changing who would one day wear the crown. It was about deciding who would help hold the family together when difficult moments came. Charles didn't answer straight away. Instead, he took time to think. Alone in his study, he reflected on everything Anne had said. More than once, he paused, removed his glasses, and looked across the room. His thoughts kept returning to the same question: who could carry that responsibility after Anne? For years, he had watched his sister quietly step into difficult situations, settle disagreements, and keep the family moving forward. Lately, he had started seeing those same qualities in Catherine. Before making his decision, Charles also spoke with William. William supported Anne's recommendation without hesitation. He believed Catherine had already earned the family's trust. At the same time, he couldn't ignore what accepting the role would mean for his wife. She was already balancing public duties with family life, and another responsibility would only add to that burden. After hearing William's thoughts, Charles finally reached his decision. But before giving his approval, he added one important condition. Whoever carried this responsibility had to protect the unity of the family above everything else. Personal disagreements could never come before reconciliation. Anne listened without interrupting. She assured Charles that this was exactly why she had chosen Catherine. She wasn't looking for someone to take sides or hold authority over the family. She was looking for someone who could quietly bring people together when difficult moments arose. Charles sat in silence for a few seconds. Then, satisfied with Anne's answer, he finally gave his approval. Camilla's response. For years, Camilla had stood beside King Charles through some of the monarchy's most difficult moments. So when Anne made such an important decision without consulting her, Camilla couldn't help but feel left out. Even on the day of the ceremony, those feelings hadn't faded. As Anne walked toward Catherine carrying Queen Mary's laurel circlet, Camilla remained silent. She applauded with everyone else, but deep down, she was still trying to understand why Anne had chosen Catherine. The answer, however, had already been given. Just a few hours earlier, before anyone entered St. George's Hall, Anne had asked the rest of the family to leave the drawing room. Only Catherine remained. A pot of tea sat between them as the room fell quiet. After a long pause, Anne finally admitted something she had never said aloud before. She was tired, and now she wanted Catherine to take that responsibility. She had shown the patience, the steadiness, and the quiet sense of duty Anne believed the role demanded. Even then, Catherine hesitated. She worried people would think she was replacing Camilla or overshadowing King Charles. Most of all, she feared another responsibility would take precious time away from Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis. Anne understood those concerns. Then she gently reminded Catherine that this was never about status. It wasn't about power, and it certainly wasn't about replacing anyone. It was about being the person others turned to when titles alone couldn't solve the problem. Because trust was never something that could simply be handed to someone. It had to be earned. After a long silence, Catherine finally agreed. Together, they left the room and walked toward St. George's Hall, where the rest of the royal family was already waiting. Princess Anne didn't pass on a crown or a place in the line of succession. Instead, she passed on something far more valuable. The trust she had spent a lifetime earning, the quiet responsibility of holding the royal family together. and the duty of guiding it through its most difficult moments. So, what do you think? Did Princess Anne make the right decision by choosing Catherine to carry that responsibility? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.